This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For January 12th, 2024, it's the best-sounding podcast in higher ed. This is the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. Broadcasting live to tape from coast to coast, easternmost and westernmost, northernmost and southernmost, gate post to hitching post. I'm your local host who can boast the most milquetoast and utmost humility. I'm Chris Dexter. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure. And it is Friday, so why not? So let's say hello to today's august panel of AV SuperFriends. I'm joined by a human interactions administrator from Kansas City, Jamie Reinhart.
Hiya.
A principal solutions facilitator from Corvallis, Oregon, Mark Kolowazinski.
Let's talk about it.
A dynamic identity associate from Greensboro, North Carolina, Larry Darling.
Yep, DIA.
And Justin, I picked this one just for you. A central configuration architect from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Justin Rexing.
I'm not an engineer.
I didn't get a promotion from last
I like
week.
that one. Can I have that one instead?
Trading.
It's a CCA.
You trade your identities.
Ooh.
CCA sounds good too.
These are all made up, but or are they?
Wait, what?
By the way, I've had multiple people ask me, how long does it take me to make these up? And also, are these real job descriptions? So
Sure.
They are
Higher
now
ed jobs and
because
just
we
read
set
off the
them.
first ones we come to, and that's
just go to Indeed.com and I just pick the first 5. That's how we do it.
They're real because we made them up.
They are now.
They're real now.
It's
Real to us. That's all that matters.
It's real if you believe in it.
Yes.
On today's show, we're going to discuss why some of us are still using HD-based and have no plans to migrate away from that. And a preview of the NWMET conference in March. But first, wait, I got a new sound thing here.
Here we
Let's
go.
do the news.
That was exciting.
Yeah, this is breaking
That was quick.
news.
Very, very bombastic.
Did we upgrade our system?
We've spared every expense.
I've spared everything.
Weather on the tins.
So, this one, I don't, what you guys think about this? I mean, I've got a news story here. We can talk about it. I want to run this clip because why not? They summarize it in 60 seconds. So let's just try this and see how it happens or see how it happens.
Listen
see
carefully.
what happens. Let's click this.
We've all heard the scary predictions that artificial intelligence could spell the end of humanity, but AI is already here or soon will be in places as common as a living room or the kitchen. This high-tech refrigerator is powered by AI, and it also has eyes.
So the fridge sees I just put in a tomato.
A built-in camera allows it to see food that's put in and taken out, and it uses that information to give out suggestions.
So the fridge will be able to say, you've got these items, you should try this recipe. Or, you have this food item that expires in 2 days, you should use it. So AI allows the fridge to keep track of its contents in an environmentally responsible way.
Artificial intelligence is everywhere at this year's CES.
All right, there we go. There's our audio file, which skipped to the middle. Thanks. So, and links in the show notes. But basically, of all the, let's just say, stuff at CES, because for those of you who have never been to CES, last time I was here was like 2006. It's like, to our audience, it's Infocom times 3. It is huge. It is the reason why Las Vegas built that like additional section on their convention center. Because they use all of that, plus the Sands, plus some of the other ones. They're using all these different convention centers. There's tons of stuff that comes out, and a lot of it is just straight up nonsense. But I think this is a winner.
This you're all in on,
AI-powered
right? You are
fridge.
in on this.
I am
My fridge is going to murder me.
Is this really new?
This is like what they've been hinting at getting to for a while now. And this is where if it is the end of the world, AI, it's coming from your refrigerator. It's coming. That's the vector of attack. It's coming from the refrigerator, and they're gonna queue up the microwave, and it's over. And heaven forbid the coffee pot gets into this or the blender.
They've already, you can already get the stupid fridge with the screen in the front and the camera and all that. It's like, is this really all that new, or they just stick AI on it and say, sell more?
Well, now it nags you. It doesn't just show you what's in the fridge. It nags you that you should be eating this
your
because you bought
cucumber's
it.
about to expire. You better make that damn cucumber salad you've been dreading.
Wow,
So you better go do
you
it.
just happen to have this new gallon of milk. Here's all the recipes you can make with milk. Think about all the ads you're going to get, those targeted ads, and everybody always seems shocked. I was just searching for this the other day, and I get all these ads. Imagine the garbage you're going to see now.
So
we see your green beans casserole is dead, and it's time for new green beans.
Your refrigerator is doing a firmware upgrade. Please keep it closed for the remainder of the 8 hours of the day.
It's kind of cool though when you say like it'll give you recipes and things, because
Sure it will.
No, it's not.
this is going to come together, right? So my college kids were home over the holidays, and I asked my son, "I need you to cook something," and he said,
Let's see
"What?"
where this goes.
So he goes on ChatGPT and says, I have chicken, I have noodles, he made a list of things and said, find me a recipe.
It'll do it.
And by God, it did it.
It
And
works
he
really well
cooked
for
it,
that.
And it was really good. And so sometimes there's this point where and maybe it'd be nice to look at my fridge and go, what am I cooking tonight? And it says lamb chops or a bowl of cereal with sour milk. Good luck.
Here's my question is, I'm going to raise a hands. Who keeps the refrigerator clean enough to where a camera can see every individual tomato and every little piece of box and fruit and whatever
Do you
have in
not
your
clean
refrigerator?
your fridge, Justin?
Well, when you have
gets a new
layers
one,
of boxes from
puts it
front to
in.
back, you can have a clean fridge, but how is
layers
one
of
camera
boxes?
gonna...
What are you putting in your fridge?
No, I think
Go
the
back
idea
and watch
is
the video. The tomato was like 5 inches from the other tomato. It's like, you have two
certainly.
tomatoes. Like, yeah, no
Well,
shit.
yeah, and I think the idea is you kind of scan it optically as you
Right.
so you hold it up for a second and then you put it in there. So yes, that's annoying. My
So
question
it's
is,
going to take me 5 hours to load my fridge from the grocery.
With all those boxes, yeah.
This is so inconvenient.
I want to know what the service plan for this thing is to keep that data running from your house and keep that persistent IoT connection to Samsung Food Cloud or whatever it is.
That's the part that,
Samsung
yes,
Food
and
Cloud.
this is bigger than just the
food
stupid damn
cloud?
refrigerator. I mean, I bought
It's a freezer,
new
too.
washer and dryer, and they want me to connect it to the app so that it can give me a text notification that the dryer shut off. Like, the only thing I want a text notification
Mine
from
has
the
a
dryer
buzzer
that
that
says, I
buzzes
just
when it's
caught on
done.
fire, go get your family out of the house, right? That's the only thing.
The key thing there
That's a
is don't
firmware
buy
upgrade.
it with a network card on it. It's, don't buy appliances with network
It's
cards on it.
it's just getting
I don't think you
hard.
can these days, Justin.
Going back to your recipe thing,
Yeah.
just think we've all fell for this. You're looking for a recipe and you got to go through like 20 pages of somebody's life story before you get down to it. Think about all the Facebook feeds and garbage you're going to get on your actual refrigerator just before you get to the like boil water, add noodles, right? You got to know how they
What
burnt their
temperature
hands
is the
off,
frickin' oven?
all the stuff.
That's all
like
I
you got
wanna
the
know.
whole life story you got to get through, scanning it in front of your refrigerator as it sit there, it's laughing at you. As Samsung's
it's
looking
just
at you,
getting
laughing at you. Look at these
stupid.
idiots sitting in front of the refrigerator.
It's like you can't hardly buy a not smart TV anymore, and it's gonna and
Oh, you can.
it's hard to find
Yes,
a not
difficult.
smart television. It's hard to find a
Just buy
not smart
ProGrade.
washing machine. It's hard, these things, and that's what's dumb is that they all want to connect to the internet. They all want to go out to the cloud. They all want to sell you. They all want to say, "Oh, you've had so many rounds of of dishwashing. You're probably out of Cascade. You should buy this carton." And it's just getting crazy.
Not sponsored by Cascade.
My
We could
question
be,
is,
though.
We could be, but not today.
the central feature they were showing off was it will look at what you have in your fridge and identify some recipes for you. So, Jamie, you described that kind of scenario that your son had done,
It
but
would be
this is
cool.
just like it to some extent. My question is, who goes to the grocery store and just like randomly buys things?
Well, now you'll be able to look in at your camera
up and down a few
see
aisles,
what you
just like
need.
picking things at random, and then you just put them in the fridge, and then you shake the fridge,
People with
and then you see what the fridge says to make.
people
That
with
is the holy
lots
grail.
and lots of other people in their house, and they go to Aldi where it's never the same thing twice.
Yeah, but you just turn the
Never
kids
same
loose and
thing
say,
twice.
I'm going to give all of you $8. Go grab whatever you want, and then they come back and throw it all in the cart.
I mean,
No,
I guess
that's-
fundamentally in this age of heightened,
You guys don't make a
security.
shopping list on the front of the fridge every,
Of course,
and fill
there's
that out.
There's an app for that now,
no.
Chris.
And
That's
then-
built into this.
I use a pen and paper.
You're doing it wrong.
And then you take that to the store, and then you go, and as you get stuff, you cross it off, and then you have the stuff that you put on your list.
You go to the store?
And you probably
Yes,
use cash.
it's a big build. I do use cash. It's a big building where there's stuff.
Okay. So everything at CES was not made for Chris. So we'll just take him off of that.
I'm going to do my own show next year across the street called the Chris
It's going to be him.
Entertainment
Get off my
Show.
lawn.
What is it? Chris Electronics Show. Yes.
Do they look at you weird at the grocery store when you give them
Look at
cash?
this guy.
Like,
He has
what-
cash.
My grocery
Shit.
store just ripped up all their registers and made like 90% of them self-checkout, except
Yeah.
for like 4, and I'm one of the guys in line.
This guy's back again with this weird paper he keeps trying to give us.
Got this paper with pictures of people on it. What the hell?
You could be like my mom and dad and sit there and hand them a check and watch them scan it.
God.
And
And
everybody
everybody
else
just
stare at
gets
them.
I would
of
still
line.
write checks if I wouldn't get like punched in the face for it.
So, by show of hands, who's getting one of these refrigerators?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Not me.
Yeah, we're all going to get one.
On accident or
Yeah, I would say, Jamie,
No,
you're
I-
right. It will be 10 years from now. We will all have these because that's all you'll
all
be
you're
able to
gonna
buy.
get.
Have to block
that's
them at
my
our
problem.
edge
Is like,
router.
and then I'll have to,
Exactly.
not
Block
turn them
everything at
on.
our edge.
Well, that's what I was thinking, Justin. Like, when you think of like
Okay, I just bought a
network
new
security, is
lawnmower.
Samsung the
Now
first thing
I've
that comes
got
to your mind?
reconfigure my network and make sure my lawnmower doesn't get hacked. You know,
Exactly, the vector of attack
Awesome.
through all this IoT. Like, I don't know if I want my refrigerator hanging out on my network full time. Just kind of because how robust do you think their IT department is behind this thing? You think they're doing
Right,
like
they've
farmed
updates
this
every
shit out.
week, looking at CISA reports, making sure they're plugging
Not
every hole?
shit.
I'm pretty sure that it's probably, zero trust reliable.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably
multi-factor.
compliant.
You can't open you got to update
Oh, my-
Duo. You can't get into your refrigerator today.
Yeah.
Guess you're not eating.
We're sorry, you've entered the incorrect pin 6 times. You can access
You
your
gotta
fridge
wait for 20 minutes.
24 hours.
Yep.
Do you think the wired port's on the inside or the outside?
Contact your IT
I don't think there
professional
is a
for
wired
more
port,
support.
Justin.
Well, luckily,
I'm excited.
most of
I
the
want
shit
it.
at
Yeah, let's go.
CES never comes to fruition. So, but
That's a good point. A lot of the stuff there are prototypes or just kind of concept
that
things or
was
You know
whatever.
what? Will
this
this
one was
thing
real.
talk to my washer and know what I ate to prep what load I'm going to have to do later on? Because I think that is the real piece of this.
It was chili night at the Kolowasinski house. We better run this on heavy duty.
it's more like it
Yes.
should talk to your smart toilet to know how
Right.
big
It
of a
should know
tank.
that too. Yeah. I mean, if we're going to get into this, let's get into it. Yeah.
He drank his
Bring more
dinner.
toilet paper. Bring more toilet paper.
Yeah, he drank his dinner,
It's
so we only
uploaded
have to
to-
flush
yeah.
with half a load. but-
Amazon's just automatically dropping off toilet paper and cleaning supplies. I'm in. Let's go.
It's getting weird.
Welcome to the internet. Welcome to
the
AI.
future, the future of AI.
They know
what
better
you've
than you
ate
do.
and prep
This is
for it.
called the connected
So if your
home.
toilet has a built-in bidet that has automation stuff in it, does it increase the water pressure based upon that meal you ate last night that your fridge
No, it
talks
has a
to?
camera to see how dirty you
Yeah,
are.
it's got a camera.
Good
It's gonna-
Lord.
It's going to go up to the cloud first. So it's
Damn with that.
data-driven decisions, Justin. We have to be data-driven here. Come on.
Good God. I'm sorry for anyone who is eating right now.
Well, this was clearly a hit. I'm going to bring more random ass consumer news to the show.
This was a
future
bad
episodes.
idea, Chris. It sounded like a good idea, and then we brought Jamie in, and now it's a bad idea.
In the meantime, let's take a quick break. Come back. We're going to talk about speaking of some old technology, doing some old crap that is not going away, despite what anyone says. So we'll do this.
As many of you know, the Super Friends have always been better received when we have more input from you. So, here's your chance. Send us a note at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com and get involved with the show. We're looking for some topics to discuss, some fellow nerds to talk to, or just general AV awesomeness to brag about. But remember, we'll probably steal your ideas. And I suppose we'd take some criticism, but that wouldn't be very nice. Anyway, drop us a note at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com and find out how quickly we ask you to join this nonsense.
So, Mark, you brought this up the other day, and you first started talking about a concept that as I misunderstood it nominally, I agreed with, but then you went to a weird place
And made it worse for you. I love it. Yeah.
So you started referring to this as the common kit of parts. That is to say, we're using shared hardware or similar hardware interfaces because it's easier to support and all that. But then you were relying or saying that it also identifies the feature set or capabilities, and you have to use those parts in every space, if I understand. And then it became kind of more of a question of why the heck are we still using HD base T?
Yeah, is that not a clear path for you to understand that as?
No.
That was very zigzaggy to me.
For
But
me,
I think I get it.
I have this like dream world that I obviously don't live in yet, that we would have this very simplified tool set, and our rooms would be very composable based out of these tools, and we would be able to mix and match those things to effectively make any type of teaching and learning environment. And we have started doing a lot of that, and arguably we can. However, getting refresh cycles and the like to kind of line up cleanly to start doing that, and then also the pressures of like, we have to plug this hole right now. How do you do it? Let's just use this thing we have on the shelf. Should we just get a hot spare for this or hot spare for that and just put it in there? And I think it's just like the real world pressures, right? And it doesn't line up cleanly. So to me, it was the ask, like, how far along are any of you on kind of your new classroom standards? This beginning of the year-ish, people start talking about, oh, these are the new standards, or I've heard some people on some ETC groups, oh, we've adopted new classroom standards. And I've reviewed some, and a lot of it's still like black box switchers and stuff out there. And they're very focused on this list of stuff, right? And I want to say less list of stuff and more like, what service are your kit delivering in all of your teaching and learning spaces? And are we anywhere near that version of paradise, so to speak, or are we just going to keep plugging and moving and hope for the best? And like, is anybody articulating and moving cleanly through this plan? And I kind of asked the group, and Chris, you overwhelmingly said, no, don't even talk to me about that. I'm never doing that ever again. I'm going to run VGA everywhere.
That actually sounds pretty accurate.
And I also want to point out that you revised your entire premise of this conversation. Because
Did I?
Yes.
That is not what we talked about.
That's what I wanted it to be. I was
Right,
trying to articulate, but I failed at that.
Larry's
So.
take.
Like, when we were first talking about this, it was a standard kit of parts, and I was okay with that. Like, I like that conversation. I'm not there. I won't be there for a while.
Well, that's
I
honest.
fully understand that.
Yeah.
But that standard kits of parts did not delve into the let's quit talking about equipment in general and just talk about the learning experience you are providing. That's a different conversation. It's a fun conversation, but different.
Well, I mentioned it because Chris, we got into it, and he's like, I don't see the value in having to do any of that common kit. I'm not going to go that route.
That's not what I said either.
If you're going to say it's AV over IP, I'm not doing
start
it.
recording our meetings.
Here we go.
Okay, let me go on this hill so we can clearly put the line. I'm going to go out and say AV over IP as much as I can, everywhere, always. That's how I want to move that way. Endpoint per device, endpoint for output. And some people don't like that, and they're like, "Oh, it costs too much." Blah, blah, blah. So, but anyway, I'm going to
what I said. So that was part of it.
Go.
And I understand. Yeah, an encoder decoder per display per sync and source. Just do it that way. Encoder decoder done. My question was, well, I have small switchers or small encoders that are small, generally small switchers that are AV over IP capable. They just fire that out over the network. I am not putting a decoder at the projector because it is still far more cost effective to drop a little HD base T transmitter behind that son of a bitch and fire it straight to the projector. Why would I move away from that in a basic room, for lack of a term, you're my standard classroom that's got one Gazinta, one Gazauta. Why do I need to complicate it by putting stuff on the network, by setting up encoding and decoding routes, by setting up subscriptions, when I can just plug in a device and it spits out the crap at the other end and it works all day long?
And
I'm not saying I'm not doing AV over IP in a larger space or something where it makes sense, but
I mean, I'm not saying AV over IP to just extend a cable. That's not what I'm saying.
You just said AV over IP everywhere.
Well, yeah, I want to get there, but if one thing does not constitute a system, like that's not what I'm trying to extend here.
And to piggyback on what Chris said too, like my standard classroom, which works in 80 to 90% of my rooms, all my sources I can reach out and touch them from the instructor station, and they're going to that HD base T display still. So like, I don't see the value in it yet. I want to get to that single kit of parts, but for 90% of my room, that single kit of parts is still HD base T, and I can cover it.
So are you still doing switchers and mixers?
I am still doing a switcher with the DSP, yeah. So yeah. And
are you buying more of those actively?
Yeah. I'm putting together an order for next year's replacement cycle, and currently I've ran the numbers, and it's still the most cost-effective way to do a standard room.
And so,
let me jump in here and ask this question: how many inputs on your switcher?
3.
Okay.
I only need 3. I usually get 4.
Well,
so yes, smaller switcher. So Mark, I think where you started was
3 is where you want to be.
There are people out there. There are schools listening right now. I'm going to tell you right now, you're wrong. Stop it. Who step one with any space is buy the giant 3 to 4 RU all-in-wonder giganto $6,000.
I think we all agree you don't do that shit.
No,
correct.
I'm
Knock
getting down
that
to 2.
off. And yet we're still seeing that on some of these listservs when people start talking about it. It's like, please stop doing that. The world has moved on. You can be far more efficient. But I don't disagree with Larry. If I need a little 3-position switcher and then a transport device, be that HD base T or maybe that 3-position switcher has AV over IP built in, great. But I don't need to put a giant thing in front of that. And I have not I will just say this also from the DSP standpoint, I have not purchased a full width, rack width DSP in 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, I think.
Same.
So,
You mean yesterday?
yeah. Because that is the one area I'm seeing with network transport or with simplified systems that I don't need the a 20 input, 20 output analog DSP, which most people again also they start with their giant 4RU all-in-wonder box, and then the next thing they add is the full width DSP below it, which I mean it's great. Hey, 2012 was fun, but it's not that
needed. So, is it one of those things where it's really price dependent for you? Like you're not going to really get to that level of kind of granularity until it is more cost effective than what you're currently doing?
I guess I'm going to ask, because I have a thought on this, and I want to answer, but I want to ask Larry the same question. Larry, let's just say the cost was a wash. Would you stay with HD base T? Would you use AV over IP? What's your thought there? If the cost was equal?
If the cost was equal, it would be a much harder decision for me. Right now, it also plays into the fact that my standard was just recently updated about 2 years ago, or actually a year ago now. And so getting a couple years of that gets that standard kit of parts in place for that. Gives me time to get the staff fully trained on the next series. And not this replacement cycle, but the following replacement cycle, I have several active learning spaces in that year. And that's a good opportunity for me to make that natural transition to look at AV over IP solutions across the board at that point.
Gotcha. You mentioned a couple pieces there. I thought it was worthy of unpacking a little bit more. And is your standard built around the stuff? Is it like this thing and this thing and this thing equals what I call my standard classroom?
No, it's the experience.
Okay.
What are the instructors expecting to have in the classroom?
Yeah, you start with the experience and you work yourself back.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because there's a lot of people, a lot of integrators that read standards as a kit of like, give me the bill of materials, that's your standard.
Well,
it's like, no.
I've talked about it, at length, and I will continue to talk about it. We're migrating from one entire ecosystem to another one, and here's the best part. Nobody has noticed.
No, nobody cares.
I'm deploying entire buildings full of it. They don't care because they walk in. The interface is similar-ish. There's similar-ish, to your point, Mark, similar-ish stuff, but that's not getting between them and their teaching, so they can teach their class. I have yet to have anybody identify or even notice, honestly, the little silkscreen logo on this thing is different than the last one. So what's happening?
This one ends in
a
cis and this one ends in an on. What's going on here?
Yeah. So
I think that I'm kind of migrating like you, Mark. But I purposely look for things that can kind of bridge the gap. Let's, for instance,
pivotable pieces.
When I move towards AV over video over IP, in particular, when I think that's when we start talking about AV over IP, really right now it's video over IP because we've been used to whether it was Cobranet or Dante. It's been around a while, but when I started moving,
it's all SimNet.
Yeah,
that's coming back, man.
London Blue. I want my London system.
Some rings
but it was the video transport. But when I started looking for devices, I came across the Visionary, where it's got 3 in, a local loop out, and really to buy a kit of those equaled an HDMI switch, and I really only need, to Larry's point, 3. That's really all I need. And so I have been migrating towards it's an AV over IP device. It may not always be the same part, right? As you said, at some point, whatever widget connects to the network and receives and sends and receives, great, whatever. But I am moving away from a lot of the stock switchers. I am making sure that I can bridge from the analog realm, the baseband realm to that. And I'm kind of like Chris. Every so often, it is just easier.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, like, for example, my cameras. It's an SDI run because that works all day long. Yeah. So why would I move it? I can put an AV over IP enabled camera in.
By the way,
and
guys,
I do in some scenarios.
That's the first thing I pulled out. Like, I don't use SDI much anymore.
It's so wild. Yeah, it's interesting because these different approaches, and it's like it's different depending where you're at. But Justin, I know you have a version of this somewhere.
But by the way, guys, SDI, I talk about this to other people, QSIS, other universities. People think we're fucking crazy using SDI right now. Just an FYI. I don't know.
It's easy and cheap.
I had a consultant tell me it was unreliable.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I was like, well,
I would have hired that consultant.
Using as a cable to pull things up, like heavy weighted thing. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, he's talking about for dragging your truck out of the ditch. It's not reliable.
We're not going to do SDI. Okay, whatever. But going back to the AV over IP versus HD base T thing. So we had that discussion yesterday, and I started thinking about it more last night, and I thought about it today.
I want to pause though. I don't want this to be AV over IP versus HD base T. I don't want that conversation. I want it to be.
But that's where it started.
But you inject in there. I want it to be IP-based encoder transport versus traditional AV spigots, tubes, switchers, and kind of stuff like that.
Okay. Baseband versus broadband.
Yeah, that's more correct.
More-ish. So I've got notes. There's notes.
Notes.
One of the questions that I'm asking myself here, I'll ask myself the question, then respond to it. But
I'll answer first. Fundamentally,
what you're asking is, hey, as we're moving forward or we're looking in future systems, why haven't we migrated all our spaces to AV over IP? I'll give you one big one. Is there is no unified standard in display manufacturers that will just take an input. Now, if they just had that NIC, that they label as LAN / whatever. Thanks Sony for making that weird. That would be take a common identify, Dante AV or whatever it is. Then that would be one more reason to move that direction. Okay. But it's not there yet. The other issue is, and I know it's one you're dealing with a lot, is that network don't always play nice with stuff. Things that were working fine for months, all of a sudden have stopped working. Networking, of course, will tell you they made no changes, just ran a few updates on their switches. But now somebody else's stuff is now affecting my stuff, which is affecting teaching. So it is a challenge.
See, I'm going to give you all the chance to tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
I know.
I agree.
Wait, what? I believe that the AV stuff in that convergence, everything we're trying to achieve is a classical IT problem outside of where the things are mounted and all the stuff that's there. Like all the way that media and data is moving is traditional IT stuff. And what I've noticed is in deploying a lot of AV over IP, your team will kind of get into that routine. You'll get that mechanical sympathy. You kind of know what you can and can't do and do well. And then all of a sudden you go back and do the old stuff again. And it's weird to watch like how the team will kind of respond to those different types of scenarios that you go, here's this old black box again. And you're just like, man, what? I have to like go back and rethink like signal flow. So there's a change in thinking of how you support an AV over IP. Yes, it's signal flow. You're absolutely right. Your inquisitive look there, Chris. But how you access the tools to manipulate that signal flow become different. And
I don't disagree with that, but I mean, for the general signal flow, Justin, you always talk about boxes. And Larry, to your comment, most of the sources are in this location within a few feet of each other. Then there's magical box or boxes. and then there is some sort of category cable that maybe is point to point, or maybe hits an intermediary switch, or maybe goes all the way down the hall to the IDF and back. But then there's a box at the other end, and things come out. But it's like, is that real? Are we really rethinking signal flow? I mean, I don't disagree. The management tools are different, but the overall concept.
I think
is
the tools now in that domain are more akin to what we would see in a classic IT stack.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference.
I think I'm seeing it a little bit with my staff too, is because I'm starting to train them on this transition, and they're wrapping their heads around, oh, I open up this box, I click this and this and this and this, and magic, it's there. Where in the old way, it's like, oh, well, if it's not physically connected to each other,
input versus
there's
an output.
nowhere else it can go.
Right.
It's kind of the same, though.
But that's still the same.
But it's software and wired.
No.
It's rethinking what signal flow means, because the network switch. If you think of a network switch as the matrix switcher, if you go back, let's compare HD base T to AV over IP right now. The chassis equals network switch. Well, on our chassis, there's physical ins and physical outs. Like you can see that, and workers and all these people and us are used to that. And then here comes AV over IP. You got a network port. Well, that could be an in and an out. It could be both. You could do all kinds of weird shit. You can use it as a KVM. You could do this. You could do that. And I think people are like overwhelmed with that, and they're like, I don't know what to think of this. And it starts with that, and it branches outward. But you create your signal flow in the software, and it's the same as the way we think of it.
I think at the base it is. Larry, let go. You got a finger waving there. I want to make
Larry's waving.
It's not really a finger. It's just like I give people more credit than that.
10 of them, and I saw one waving.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that, like, if we think of that as the matrix switch, I think we're thinking of it wrong, because we're subscribing to streams, not the switch.
I was trying to relate the old to the new, but
we're still just clicking. Either whether it's a Tron interface that says route this to that, or we're connecting to a device saying, hey, subscribe to that. It's still kind of the same.
Sure. HD-based T is based on Ethernet standards, too.
But I think I see it most confusing for folks when they're dealing with the audio section, because we're used to XLRs. We're used to RCA cables. We're used to... I see most of mine start to struggle when we go from like an Audio Flex to a Dante-driven QSC.
But we just
talked about a bunch of Audio Flexes
around forever. Cobernet's been around forever on DSPs.
But you had to... It wasn't a network cable to a network cable to a switch to a network cable to a network cable, right? Somewhere in this Cobernet chassis, you had to have an analog in and an analog out. And so some of them are really confused when they start learning to transition from one to the other, that, well, how did I get this? How come my amplifier needs an analog connection, but I had all my other sources were magic? They just came over the network switch. Whatever it is,
talking about training opportunities.
You're not wrong. It's 100%
you're not
training
wrong, but
opportunities.
that's
But I still think we're stuck down
confusions.
here in this like old school analog AV philosophy. I want to transcend that and get up into the top, because we've talked about it multiple times. We start talking about these roomification of AV systems and pick your poison accordingly. All that stuff's going to start to kind of go to the wayside here. If we start getting into these real cloud-driven experiences, relying on whatever co-piloty thing you want to go with, your architect of your room and how that lives and your persistent connectivity for all your things become really important. This becomes a network conversation, not an AV spigots and tubes conversation anymore. And it changes. And so moving forward, I'm trying to architect that change so that we can start to re-envision and think about that. And now, some people are going to say, no, we're never going to do that. We're just going to stay and do the same old thing we're going to do. But the technology is deflationary. It's going to become cheaper. We're going to build more capability with this kit. My foray into having this kit is about architecting infrastructure and these experiences to start moving in that direction. And
I feel like we had the same types of conversations and the same anxiety when the whole VGA sunset and here comes HD base T. What's this shit? It's the same. It's just new tech.
There's no fear here. Like, I was never afraid of VGA going away. So we'll be a little bit open here. Like, we're providing way different opportunities for staff to rethink when they get, like, Justin, you're on a call with me the other day. We were opening Wireshark, getting into it. When we start getting into the actual piece, that is so far detached from AV as we would historically have identified it.
I would argue against that, because if you're diving deep
not
into
me,
EDID tables,
the average technician who's going through that experience, it is much different.
This goes back to the analog audio to digital audio. I mean, in analog, you have a hum, you go look for it. In digital, it's just there or it's not, or it pops and clicks. Or
like if you showed a network engineer our EDID table and told them to fix something, they'd be like, what the hell is this? And you vice versa with the AV technician on the network side. So, I mean, it's just,
I don't want to, I think getting into like
getting used to change,
the actual like transducer work, that's not what I'm talking about. Right, I'm really talking about the whole scale piece of this. And if you're going to only architect around traditional baseband experience, what does that mean for your choices you make for your infrastructure and things like that? And that's how I'm kind of looking at this. Is my infrastructure right? Can I use this common kit? Can I move there? Because our leadership's like, yeah, we want to know your AV over IP plan. We want to know how you're going to have a flexible kit of parts that's going to allow you to reduce cost. And if we decide tomorrow we're only going to do one input in a classroom, guess what? I want to remove all the stuff that's not that one input. And so it's only going to be the thing we need. So being able to adapt and move quickly in there, how does that affect the way we're thing? I know that I could just plug and put an HD-based thing in there and have success. That's not the question. The question is the overall holistic approach. How far have any of us come in that kind of new world environment we're trying to get to? And I'm not as far as I would like to be. I think just because of the pressures of things.
I know that going back to the HD base T and AV over IP, I'm trying to get more systems in the AV over IP realm. Mm-hmm. I feel like our staff likes it better. Our staff is more IT centric than AV centric anyway. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, it is more expensive, on the upfront cost. But what I'm seeing is, as I do this over time, I've been not having to research these weird boxes. You got to remember how we do systems. We don't have the ability to go do 30 rooms at a time in one building. Everything's ad hoc and reactive here. So it's really hard to create standards. And I've done a lot of weird shit lately. So I've been doing a lot of
I want to talk about this weird shit you mentioned again. What is this weird shit?
Well, let's break it down and just eyes and nose, right?
Segment.
Yeah.
So I went through and looked at some of my most recent projects, and I'm doing like 4x2s, 3x2s, 2x2s, some 1x4s.
Are we building a house? What are we talking about here?
Well, it's like a lot of lab spaces, physical therapy, Kentucky museums, theaters, a lot of weird shit. So what I'm seeing is, if I did HD base T for all of that, it would just be a painstaking design research. Now I can just go, well, I'm just going to make this AV over IP. I don't have to do a lot of research.
Thank you for making my point, Justin. You just made my exact point. Is that kit of parts gives you the ability to build out any environment.
So I can just not think about my designs and move forward, and I can create my designs and estimates faster, so it lowers total cost of ownership over time. Mm-hmm. However,
you're welcome.
When I get to that 2x1 scenario, the standard classroom scenario for us is the 2x1. I have arguments with myself.
Right.
And I go HD base T.
Immediate cost versus long-term total cost.
But I have to, because I'm trying to watch out for the university budget. So that's, but the reason why I do more AV over IP now, I think, is just for the simple fact of the types of rooms that I'm doing.
And that's my concept of kit of parts.
I don't even think it's long-term versus short-term. I think that's a misnomer, because
I don't think so.
There is the macro versus the micro too. Like on those one-off spaces, those weird ones that he's been dealing with all the time. Yeah, for those AV over IP makes all the sense in the world. But for the 90% of what I do, it just doesn't make sense yet from a cost standpoint. And that 90%
I'm like
is
very
a lot
much
more.
on par. Like
I'm finding the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm finding that it's within tolerance. Put it that way. If it's more expensive, it's within a tolerance of more expensive. The idea that it can be installed differently. I just turned over two very large systems over the break here, right? And they had 8 lines each from there to the floor, and it's one of those combined things. And we were able to just Once you
I
remove
love
the old
those.
equipment, it's just click, 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 click. There was no Phoenix connectors, and there's no terminal blocks, and there's no this, and there's no that.
AV over IP works great in those rooms. Combined separate rooms.
Oh yeah,
And it,
all day
Butter,
long.
man. Love it.
And,
Well, so
and I get
here's-
it. Those were bigger. I get it.
Yeah.
But the idea that it was that much faster to get through. I'm trying to do the same thing that you're doing, Mark, and move kind of in that direction where I can still be on the old and be in the new, is that I am at that precipice where my staff has to catch up. I was supporting it all before.
Yep.
And now we have to, there's to Justin's part, the training to make them able and make it a campus-wide initiative instead of just a, how many can Jamie handle and juggle?
I'm lucky. We have a good staff. I don't have that hurdle. They adopt things really quickly.
Sure.
It's great.
Chris, you had something there. You wanted to get in.
I was just going to say, back to that delta. If I look at, to Larry's comment about macro versus micro, if I look at one room, the delta is about $1,000. Yeah, for $1,000, why not go AV over IP? If I'm doing 40 rooms, that's $40,000. I can now do 2 more rooms. So, and again, I have to look at it through the lens of a 10 plus years of neglected campus.
Right.
And I literally got a ticket the other day, and I put it in, you guys saw it, but guy was having trouble with his MacBook with his adapter to a VGA connection. There are still those spaces out there. Not a lot. We're not like Western Kentucky, but they're still out there that I'm trying to get there and get that stuff stripped out because there's a lot of departments who don't associate value in putting money into their classroom spaces.
Correct.
Because they can keep calling and someone will help them make it work again. But
okay. So quickly,
I don't know.
Do you think you will be? Let's say you're gonna go AV over IP. How long do you think it'd be before your campus is completely converted?
Like to say 0 baseband transport?
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever go there?
Oh
No.
God, I don't know.
And take the
it'll
camera
be
out of the
years.
conversation.
Yeah,
Like,
we're
you-
10,
15
15 years.
for me.
You think so?
We're
Okay.
10
Now,
to 15
let me
years too,
let me
and I'm
explain
pushing for it.
No,
let's
you're
just say
probably, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's kind of where everybody sits
when
right now.
funds are available, or when let me phrase it this way: when there are not ownership challenges between me and the space. So we're doing a building this summer. It is all general pool classrooms. There is 0 pushback or any sort of, I don't want to say 0 input. That's not true, but there is. I'm driving the project. It's mine. I'm going to put in whatever I want. Those are all going to be all AV over IP rooms, just because then all the rooms, to your point, all 30 plus rooms in this building all use the same stuff. There will be spaces in there that have 1 projector and 3 sources. Why do I need AV over IP for that? But it's going to happen. But also, I'm the one paying for it, so I'm going to do it. As opposed to the departments who are pushing back with like, well, we have $8,000. What can we do? And then it becomes that
12
real
rooms,
challenge.
$8,000.
Yeah. So
Okay. So it's coming. I think everybody's somewhere on that spectrum. I'm not alone, but I'm kind of.
I think it's another one where we answered nothing.
We answered everything. What are you talking about? It sounds like Justin wants a kit of parts. I heard that. And he loves it because it allows him to do his job faster.
I don't have to think as hard.
And Chris, you just admitted that in a perfect world, you'd be all AV over IP, and you're looking forward to it, except for one room that has 1 projector, and Larry's somewhere in the middle, and Jamie's
Wait,
way out in
aren't you
front
the
of us.
same person who puts in AV over IP capable microphones and then runs them analog?
Yeah,
I was going to bring
Yes,
that up.
but it's a common kit of parts. He can do it
common kit
either
of
way
parts,
at
yeah,
any
exactly.
given time.
But it's a different type of cable,
is the
unless he's stacking conductors on a RJ40 or on a
Stack your
cat
Cat5
cable.
You haven't heard of this new Cat 11,
Oh, it's so much
Cat
faster.
12?
So much faster.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break, come back, and Mark can tell us all about inviting everybody to his house in a few months. Are you looking to really improve your AV integration skills? On your next project, why not try independent amalgamated challenge cables? That's right, challenge cables. Why buy a standard cable and an adapter to put on 1, 2, or all 3 ends when you can use challenge cables? We've taken the most common connections you use on nearly every AV project and combined them into a single cable. HDMI to RJ45, XLR to IEC, and our super popular 5-pin captive screw Phoenix to composite video. Unlike our competitors, independent amalgamated challenge cables don't perform any of the conversions between protocols, so your signal stays just as it was when connected at the source. If you can integrate 6 of these cables in a single project and not get so angry you break something, we'll double your warranty. Independent amalgamated challenge cables. Good luck with that. So, Mark, in 2 months? Is it 2 months from now? 2.5
Frighteningly
months?
close to now. Whenever
3
this
months?
is going on, yes.
2.5 months.
2.5 months.
You're inviting everyone to come stay at your house.
We're going to make popcorn. It's going to be nice. We're going to have sleeping bags out. Everybody's sleeping on the floor. It's going to be cool.
So you are hosting, or I suppose you are the name in charge of, but
yeah,
Oregon
I am
State,
the puppet. I am the puppet that is quote unquote the chair of Northwest Met this year.
Yeah, so Oregon State is hosting the Northwest Managers
Conference
of Educational Technology, NWMET.org.
Yep.
Everyone go sign up and attend that. Arguably the best conference.
Yeah, and we talked about it on the last show. You're hearing, you're like, why are these guys talking about this again? We already know about this.
Because it's fun.
It's fun, and we have like 4 minutes left to fill. So listen, just hang out. Yes, Northwest Met, NWMET.org. Sign up. There's more clarity on kind of the events that are going on, and it's a week-long event starting on, if you're signing up for the BiAmp experience, there's only a few seats left for that to go get the personalized tour of the BiAmp factory up in Portland. There may and or may not be some special AVSF folks attending with you for that tour. And then trainings when you kind of get back, and then the Tuesday there's some training sessions, grab some RUs, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a lot going on. There's 3 or 4 tracks of actual educational content and presentations, lots of good food, lots of events, good speakers, and the like. And we're doing it at the very end. We're finishing off with a trip out to the coast to explore a different campus we have over there, a new building of sorts, some of the technology we have. So you get to kind of round out your trip with a journey to the coast and back. But good, fun week full of stuff. However, related to that week,
here's the catch.
Here's the catch.
You have to room with Justin.
You have to stay in Justin's hotel. There's not enough hotels to go around. No.
Good God.
I want to announce AVSF Live. We're going to do a live show. Yes. Sorry to spring it on you guys. Yes. Justin, what's the correct pronunciation of that?
LIVE exclamation point.
That's
LIVE exclamation point.
That's right. So we got it. So on the Monday, it's kind of lightly being called the BiAmp Monday. After that trip, we're going to do a live stream.
Do you want to rebrand that? This is AVSF Monday, and we're allowing some BiAmp stuff to happen.
That sounds better. AVSF Monday, and BiAmp is underwriting that. But we're doing a live stream. I think we're going to start that right around 5 o'clock on that Monday, and it's then going to do a nice show for you, and then we're going to follow up with an after party here on campus as well. So if you're in the area, just so happen to be driving by, I don't know why you would be, but if you are, stop by for that. Put it on your calendar.
I-5 goes right by there, so there's a lot of people just driving by.
Yeah, just driving by. Yeah, well, come on out. Dude, come and join us for the live show. Heckle us. It's very rare that we get to see all of us in the same room stumbling over words and pointing and laughing at each other.
And the plan on this one is to also stream said live show.
So
we will have a live show with people in the room, but also we'll be sharing it out to the common platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Do you think we get enough bandwidth at Oregon State?
I'm going to bring some extra with me, so hopefully you guys will bring bandwidth
Pack
as well.
your own Wi-Fi. Make sure you have it.
Mine.
Bring some of that Kentucky net out here. I want to see if it's compatible. If it ports out right. But yes, mark your calendar. If you haven't made travel plans, go ahead and make that. If you are listening and you're not sure you can make it, there are some opportunities for Northwest Met to help certain folks with travel arrangements as well. Some sponsorships, some gracious partners have stepped up to help some of that. So NWMET.org for more information and details. Go there. We will all be there. Hope to see you all there, and come heckle us at our live show. And we hope to interact with everybody who can't be there via the internet as well.
And said live show will have drinks and stuff there too, right?
Drinks, booze. I've been told.
I was just saying drinks generically because maybe it's just water, but you said
we have booze.
Mm-hmm.
Mark's promising
allegedly.
Booze.
That's what I've been told.
And if there's no booze there,
it's going to be delivered through the AI refrigerator.
Yes, maybe.
You've had enough to drink. You can't have any more.
You've been locked out.
See,
we've contacted a self-help group.
There we
on
go.
your behalf.
That's it. Cool.
All right. So Northwest Met March 24th.
24th is technically that first Sunday part of buy-in that if you sign up for that, and then 25th on for that week.
Right.
So
link in the show notes, nwmet.org. Go there, sign up for the conference. And if you do happen to find yourself in the area on Monday afternoon, into the evening, and would like to join us anyway, stop by. We
get
have
you in the list.
a space that can seat more people than will be attending Northwest Met.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Definitely. All right.
We'll hire some additional
tell him
crowd.
Raul sent you.
Yeah. Raul has extra space at his house if you need to stay there as well.
All right.
So yeah, should be fun. We'll be there all week doing all sorts of fun stuff, or just hanging around doing whatever.
Something, doing presentations. It'll be fun.
Oh, that's right. We are presenting on a lot of things. In person though.
In person,
not like over the internet with someone's weird camera.
Not hybrid.
No, not hybrid. Butts and seats.
Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.